Oh, thank you. Are you going?
No.
No.
Yolanda and Candelaria are.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be the 6 of you and
The West Siders.
Michael and
Georgia.
Of course. And then I think I don't know who he's invited to round out the table. I think it's table 10. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun. You guys will have a good time.
Oh, we always have fun with Mike and Georgia. So. To the Hispanic thing on Saturday. It'll be a busy day that day. Say hi. Hi, Yolanda. How are you? I'm okay.
I like snuck in around there. Just how are you doing?
I was like, hi, but I'm not loud enough, I guess. Only when I have to be. Then I'm really loud. You'll be there on Saturday for the Noche Encantada.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah. It'll be fun.
Me and Candelaria.
Yeah. My husband's going. Yeah, Mike and George are a blast, so it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. I've been to it once before.
I went and bought a dress.
Me
so
too.
I have this sequincy blue dress and cute cake. They're so much fun.
I told my guys, we're going to the prom.
Yeah, that's what it is. My husband's like, oh, I can wear my tux. He hardly ever gets to work except for weddings or whatever, you know.
And that's gonna be okay. You don't have to outdress me.
No, they better not. We better look prettier.
I'd like to call to order the Board of Education for Wednesday, February 7th.
Well.
Hello. No order here.
Okay, your mic was on.
Is the mic on?
There it is.
Ah, we got it now. It's just tremendous control here, I can see. I'd like to introduce Sandra, who is our interpreter today, and she's going to say a few words about availability of interpretation.
Sí, buenas tardes. Si alguien necesita interpretación al español, levante la mano y les alcanzo un auricular. Gracias.
Thank you. We have a color guard presentation by the Albuquerque High School Army GRTC under the instruction of Lieutenant Colonel Gomez, and they will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Honor guard, attention! Precinct
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos a la República Mexicana, un montón, a todos, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Order, colors, right, face, port, colors, forward, march.
Port colors. Thank you. I'd like to have a moment of silence to honor our cadets who have served in the military and have lost their lives. So if we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'd like a roll call, please.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Here.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Here.
Lorenzo Garcia.
Here.
Barbara Peterson.
Here.
Candelaria Patterson.
Here.
Elizabeth Armijo.
Here.
Dr. David Piercy.
Here. Entertain a motion for the adoption of the February 7th Board of Education meeting agenda and the approval of January 17th Board of Education meeting minutes and the January 22nd Special Board of Education meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We'll go on to recognition of staff. Secretary Yolanda.
Thank you, Secretary Yolanda. Welcome to tonight's board meeting, and thank you for coming. We would like to recognize the color guard tonight from Albuquerque High under the instruction of Lieutenant Colonel Gomez. Would the instructor and students please come to the podium and introduce themselves?
My name is Kyla Aragon.
Robert Skinner.
Jocelyn Bustillos.
And Donovan Rodriguez.
I'm the Army instructor. Colonel Gomez couldn't make it in. My name is James Povey.
And I'm Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Ingalls, the new hire for the Director of Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, JROTC instruction here in Albuquerque. I also oversee the middle school leadership programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next recognition will be introduced by APS Chief of Police Steve Gallegos.
Good evening, and thank you for having us this evening. Tonight I have the honor of recognizing several exemplary APS police officers. These officers were promoted to their ranks on January 10th of this year. First off is Stephen Modest. Stephen couldn't be here today. He has a young child sick with a flu at home. But Stephen Modest was recently promoted from the rank of detective to the rank of lieutenant, and he oversees all the patrol services officers. Those are the 3 shifts of officers who patrol our district during the day and night. Secondly, Deborah Romero was recently promoted from the rank of sergeant to the rank of lieutenant. Lieutenant Romero now oversees all schools on the west side. Those are all the schools on the west side of I-25. Roy Dennis was recently promoted from the rank of officer to the rank of sergeant. Sergeant Dennis is stationed at Albuquerque High School. Augustine Senna was recently promoted from the rank of officer to the rank of sergeant, and Sergeant Senna is stationed at West Mesa High School. And lastly, Eddie Sandoval, who is a detective, and he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and he is in charge of all detectives and all investigations within APS. Can I get all the promotees to come up? And if there's any family members here to support the officers, are there any? There's one, I believe. She's kind of shy. So thank you all for the ways you serve the students, staff, and communities of APS, and thank you so much. And I do have one additional, Sergeant Lilly. Sergeant Lilly was promoted to the rank of sergeant at the same time, and K9 actually to the rank of sergeant. And Sergeant Lilly.
Oh, yes.
Do we get to shake hands?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, she's behind the secretary right now. Oh, beautiful dog. We need to finish it. Oh my God, she's gorgeous. Yeah, she got her badge. I'm proud of you. She got her badge. Officer, Julie has no treats for you.
I know, too bad.
She usually has treats. They almost always have treats in his pocket.
Oh, shedding, that's the best part. The best part.
Steve, in my 9 years, I have never seen or heard of a promotion of our police officers. Is this the first time? Or?
No, not at all. We've had some in the past, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But we've had, and also these were vacancies. These are not additional positions that we created. They were vacancies that were there.
Okay.
I felt the need to fill them, a better supervision out there, and just better coordination out there at the schools. So
well, that's good. Yeah, I appreciate that greatly, and I'm greatly for us to honor those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next recognition will be introduced by Dr. Gabriela Blakey, Associate Superintendent for Zone 1.
Good evening, Board President, members of the Board. Tonight I have the honor of recognizing an outstanding school. Wells Fargo and Golden Apple Foundation of New Mexico have partnered to provide opportunities for academic enrichment and to encourage positive change in New Mexico classrooms through grants. In the past few years, these organizations have provided more than $323,000 to fund 217 projects serving more than 29,000 New Mexico students. This year, there were 112 applications for grants totaling almost $215,000. Chelwood Elementary School was awarded one of the Wells Fargo and Golden Apple Foundation Teacher Partner Grants. The Literacy Goal Team at Chelwood Elementary School plans to use this grant money for a book room. Several members of the Chelwood community were able to attend tonight's meeting. Please stand as I call your name and come to the podium. Right here. Rowan Lee, the principal, who doesn't want to come up. She's coming up. Gabrielle Miller, assistant principal. Laura Campbell, Literacy Goal Team Chair and third grade teacher. Lucinda Crawley, special education teacher and Literacy Goal Team member. Thank you all for the ways that you help promote literacy. Please show our appreciation to these members of the Chelwood Elementary School community, and thank you for working with our students.
Our next recognition will be introduced by Dr. Chris Muir, Executive Director of Student, Family, and Community Supports.
Thank you. Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. When I say Aztec High School and Aztec, New Mexico, what comes to your mind? I'm sure that most of you are thinking about the horrific event that happened in December where a lone shooter shot 2 Aztec students. But I want to change your thinking about that event because of the response that APS did when that happened. Immediately finding out about the event, Superintendent Reedy contacted the superintendent in Aztec and said, "Tell us what you need and we will be there." So on December 10th, 3 days after the event, when they still hadn't even opened the schools back up again, we deployed 6 members of the APS D-SMART team, which is the stress management and recovery team, to Aztec. That was on a Sunday. This isn't even a work day for our D-SMART team. So the volunteers went to Aztec, began to work with the community, and so during that time, they provided assistance to the community, to the staff, to the students. They covered all of the schools in Aztec, not just the high school, and did a lot of intervention, and then worked with the staff to open the school back up again, and did those kinds of things. So tonight we're recognizing this incredible group of people. That wasn't the only thing they did. If you remember, we went into winter break. Aztec was still in school the second week. So some additional members of the D-SMART team gave up part of their winter break to go to Aztec and to provide assistance while we were on break, while they were still in school, to help them recover from this horrific event. And I can tell you that, and I don't know exactly what Victoria is going to say, but I'm going to tell you that there were lots of groups that went. Our team took the lead. And I think Victoria came back with a stack of cards about this thick, and they told her, "Your team is fantastic. If you ever need us, we will come to Albuquerque." So I'm going to ask Victoria Waugh Reed to join me at the podium, who is the lead of the D-Smart team in APS, and ask her to say a few words about the experience in Aztec, and then introduce the team members that are here tonight that actually went to Aztec.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, and thank you, Superintendent Reedy and board members and board president. We deeply appreciate the recognition. It's been a long day today as well, so I typed just what I'm going to say because we're all quite tired, actually. Most of us that are here today, at least half, were working at other schools today for some hard things that happened. So I apologize if I get a little emotional. I'm tired. So anyways, I want to be sure that we honor the Aztec community as well. They're very strong and resilient and wonderful, caring people. Their teachers are very much like our teachers. We heard stories of teachers, pardon me, placing themselves between gunshots and their students and trying to find weapons in their classrooms to defend their students. And I like to think that all of our educators are like that. So I want to make sure that we honor them. As a team, we're really honored to have worked with those folks. And on that note, I want to introduce to you some of the most awesome people that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I'd like to introduce first the two people that went back to Aztec and gave up part of their winter break. That would be Molly Covington. Please come on over here. They don't like attention at all. It's very painful for them to be here. This is Molly Covington. She's a nurse at Osuna Elementary School. She splits between Osuna and Sombra del Monte. Also, Rhonda Sandy, please come on over. She is a school counselor at Manzano High School. Jen Hart and Helen Sterling both work as school counselors at Truman Middle School. Kim McClintock is a school counselor at Osuna Elementary School. Jamie, sitting further back, Jamie Anderson is a school counselor at Manzano High School. And these are the folks that trooped up there on their off time, on their weekend, during their winter break to go help folks out. So I can't say enough about them. And thank you very much for the recognition.
Thank you.
So I was going to do this, but they got a standing ovation. But with the family and friends of the D-Smart team members, please stand up and be recognized. They give up a lot, too.
Our next recognition will be introduced by Yvonne Garcia, Associate Superintendent for Zone 3.
Good evening, and I have to tell you, I like following Dr. Muir. I don't have to adjust the microphone. Short people can make short people jokes. So tonight, I am truly excited to be here and announce to you an excellent PE program. The physical education program at Volcano Vista High School was recently named the PE Program of the Year by the Society for Health and Physical Education of America. Just so you know, they do set standards for our PE program. And there was an extensive review process for this national award. And as part of that award, they have an elective program. So we know that ninth graders take fundamentals of PE. But 75% of the students at Volcano Vista High School choose to take PE electives because of the extensive offerings with yoga, with what they have to offer within their lifetime sports, weight training, team and individual sports, etc. So that is pretty exciting. The school's elective PE program focuses on diversity and individuality, helping many special education, gifted, intensive support students, English language learners, and mainstream students to identify and develop their interests and skills. They are masters at differentiation. Several members of the PE team were able to join us this evening, and I'm excited because I hired 5 out of 7 of them. So as I call your name, will you please come forward? Dr. Vicki Bannerman, principal, who is here to support her PE department. Amy Suman. Kevin Anders. Todd Flores. Debbie Nord. A few of them couldn't be with us tonight. Chad Wallen, Ron Francoeur, Amy Dowd, and Samantha Lucero. So we are excited that they are here. Thank you for all you do for our students. And let us show our appreciation for this team.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We love what we do. Thank you. So much. Good job. Congratulations.
Flex. All right. Our next recognition will be introduced by Lucinda Sanchez, Associate Superintendent for Special Ed.
I am not in the Short People Club. I'm going to adjust the mic. Good evening, Board President Piercy, members of the board, and Superintendent Raquel Reedy. Tonight I have the honor of recognizing several exceptional staff members. They're very exceptional. These are the people that look at our students and don't say they can't, but they look at our students and say they can. Our staff from Highland Complex and Aztec Complex have worked together with the Highland Autism students to work together with Highland Autism students to create the awesome Barkery. The staff help autism students hand make, and you can see, we're showing this to you right now, hand make, bake, package, and sell homemade dog cookies. And by the way, we do this at Aztec Complex and Highland Complex. You can see the pictures of the Barkery adventures on the screens. I know, this is so exciting. Our kids are using so many different skills. And this project has supported the Highland High School's most involved nonverbal students in hands-on activities, as well as the Aztec Complex students. The Awesome Bakery also gives the students an opportunity to use learning strategies that support their nonverbal skills when communicating with the public. These students are making amazing progress in their social skills. And you know, the really interesting thing about this, even though they're dog cookies, a lot of the Highland High School students buy them and eat them. So we're not sure, but there's something in them that's pretty delicious, but I'm not going to try and find out what it is.
I was excited until just then. So
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to burst your. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, board member Armijo. Okay, these students are making amazing progress in several dogs, including my Labradoodles, Chuisita Baca de Sanchez and Cocoa Beans, and you'll see their pictures up here. And Sergeant Lily were so willing to serve. There they are. We're so willing to taste test and be the taste testers for our Awesome Bakery dog cookies. A few of the Highland Complex and Aztec Complex staff were able to join us this evening. And you know, this is such, I can't tell you how proud I am of these individuals and how they work with their students. They love our students and our families. And it is amazing the progress that our students have made as a result of this project. So I'd like to call them. As I call your name, please come up to the podium. Kristen Brown, Bernadette Candia. Kristen Brown's a teacher. Bernadette Candia, educational assistant. Jasmine Carpenter, educational assistant. Sherry Kruper, educational assistant. Sarah Davis, educational assistant. Vincent DeCarlo, educational assistant. These guys are I'm just so proud of them. Jennifer Flake, she's one of our behavior management specialists. Denise Garcia is a teacher. Colleen Gonzalez is one of our social workers. Mizel Hanzopoulos is a district resource teacher. Lisa Heimer is our Aztec Complex principal. Julia Hine is our educational assistant. Megan Hunter, educational assistant. Telma Huarigi is our educational assistant. Kyle Lathan, educational assistant. Rachel Livingston, teacher. Adsmin Lozano Arvizu is our educational assistant. Julie McAfee is an SLP. David McGurk is one of our teachers. Andrea Mickelson is a teacher. Kimberly Montoya, educational assistant. Michael Montoya, teacher. Darla Noor, occupational therapist. Costa Pavlakos, Highland Complex principal. Travis Quintana, teacher. Joshua Sanchez, behavioral management specialist. Russell Smith, teacher. Nicholas Tafoya, educational assistant, and Shauna Zuni, educational assistant. And although not all of them are here tonight, we just wanted you to hear their names because they are part of this Awesome Bakery effort as well. And I'd like to introduce a special guest that is here today, and he is so good at making these cookies. I'm telling you what, Alex Shank with his mother, Mrs. Kai Garcia, and Mr. Shank. And would you like to stand up with Alex, Kai? Bring him up.
Some cookies.
Okay. So please join me in congratulating the fabulous work that our Awesome Bakery staff has done. And we would also like to recognize the family and friends who came to support our staff and who are so generous in letting our staff give so much time to our complexes. Stand up, the families of our complex staff. And you guys are in for a little treat tonight, aren't you? Okay.
So did Lily get a treat?
You get a cookie.
Lily got a treat.
I think she's a taste tester.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have any.
Thank you all for the amazing job you do for our kids.
I'll see if they'll share when I get home.
All right.
The answer is probably no way.
My daughter took her dog that I've been taking care of when my son-in-law moved in with us a year and a half ago, and then now that she got here.
I know, I have a dog too. So
You'll have to have one of your own.
I do. So that concludes our recognition. Congratulations again to everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight.
We have one more.
Oh, we do? How come I missed it? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there you go. Our final recognition. There you go. This evening will be introduced by Shannon Barnhill, Executive Director of the APS Education Foundation. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Thank you. Thank you, Board President Piercy, Superintendent Reedy, and board members. It is with great honor to present to you a loyal and devoted foundation board member, along as a corporate donor. And before I do that, Ron, I want you to know that those dog cookies are pretty awesome. I didn't eat them, but they're 50 cents a bag, and I had the pleasure of buying a couple of bags, and my dogs love them so much that they discovered my counter for the first time and pulled the bags off and ate them all at one time. So they're wonderful. So hide them. That's right. Yes, I can. I highly suggest a cookie dog jar. So back to this wonderful board member and corporate donor whose service to the community is not only a commitment, it's their culture. This donor is deeply invested in the community they serve. The Intel's partnership has enabled the foundation to increase support to students through the foundation's grant programs by funding amazing, innovative projects, providing new experiences, and creating an outstanding learning environment. Intel plays a very special role in the continued success of our students and our teachers. Thank you, Intel, for your strong belief in the APS education and having as such an impact on thousands of students. We are so grateful that you are a part of the APS community. Please join me in recognizing Ron Epps, who has a check presentation to APS.
Dr. Piercy, Board, Superintendent Reedy, Intel is proud to be a partner with APS. We believe strongly in what you're doing, and I'm glad to say that I am able to work with several APS graduates right there at Intel. I'm not sure how many of them are from Highland. I'm sure some of them, and I'm not sure how many of those ate the dog cookies. But we should probably do some sort of study to find out if that actually increases the odds. But we're proud to be here tonight, and I am proud to present this check. It's a big check.
I'll get a photo of you.
Here, I'll hold it.
I wanted to hear who was going to cash it.
Superintendent, come on, Superintendent.
Here, no, you take it for deposit.
She'll know what to do with it. That's awesome. Okay, now I think we really are done, right? Okay, so that was good. That was worth waiting for, right? I'm glad that I didn't miss that one. So that concludes our recognition, and congratulations again to everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're now going to begin public forum. Whether you are here with a request for the Board of Education to consider, provide information, or just see how the Board of Education operates, we want you to know that you are welcome. The Board of Education has established rules for expected civil behavior during the meeting and public forum. Upon signing in to speak tonight, you received a signature form and copy of the procedural directive, which outline those rules for expected behavior. The presiding officer will enforce these rules as appropriate throughout the meeting. Tonight, there are less than 15 speakers. We actually have a few fewer than that. Therefore, to accommodate the greatest number of speakers, each speaker has 2 minutes for comments within the 30-minute public forum. So the first individual we're going to call up is Jean Gonzalez. Well, why don't I just call all of you? You can just line up, and then we'll just get you there. It's Jean Gonzalez, Josiah Gurulay, and Ellen Bernstein. We'll go in that order.
Okay. Hi. We are going to be speaking together. I'm Jan Gonzalez, and this is Josiah.
Hello, we're students from Atrisco Heritage Academy. We're juniors. We're here today as members of Evolvement. Evolvement is a youth-led movement working to decrease the harmful and addictive use of tobacco. One of the campaigns we are working on this year is the 24/7 campaign, founded by the New Mexico Department of Health. The 24/7 campaign is helping New Mexico school districts adopt, implement, and enforce truly comprehensive tobacco-free school policies. I'm sorry, guys. Under a truly comprehensive policy, tobacco use, possession, and distribution is prohibited by anyone, anywhere, anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The Albuquerque Public School District is doing a great job committing to healthy students, staff, and visitors. You can strengthen this commitment by updating your tobacco policy to be truly tobacco-free. We have provided a copy of your current policy in your folders to use as a reference. In order to have a comprehensive policy, the following updates are required. First, your policy must include liquid nicotine containers, and this is mandated by the state of New Mexico. Second, the policy must require signs be posted across school grounds communicating the school environment is tobacco-free at all times. Third, the policy must require that students, staff, and visitors are notified of the tobacco policy. We can provide free print materials and announcements to help you achieve this. Fourth, the policy must require schools to provide referrals to cessation resources for staff and students suffering from tobacco addiction, such as providing the number to the New Mexico Quit line. A list of these referrals is provided in our free 24/7 toolkit. Finally, the policy must include progressive discipline and enumerate specific possible sanctions or disciplinary action. While you have a discipline matrix in your student handbook, this should be referenced with a few examples in tobacco policy. As a partner and resource to Albuquerque Public Schools, we are here to offer help to update your tobacco policy to be completely comprehensive. In your folders is model policy language you are free to adopt completely or use as a reference to help revise your current policy.
Once you adopt a comprehensive tobacco-free policy, the 24/7 campaign has great ways to support your schools. First, we provide bilingual tobacco-free signs to all schools in your district. All charges are on us. Second, our tobacco-free toolkit will be sent to schools in the district with no cost to you. Finally, we will celebrate our policy update on both social media and traditional media and feature your district on our website and printed materials. On behalf of Evolvement, thank you for taking the time to learn more about the 24/7 campaign. We hope that Albuquerque Public Schools will join districts including Roswell and Pecos in being a model to districts across the state by adopting a truly comprehensive tobacco-free policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Reedy and members of the Board of Education. I sent you an email this afternoon, and in the email, I reminded you all that last month, about 60 ATF member educators attended the board meeting, and 30 of them spoke out about intensifying workload issues. At the end of that meeting, each of you expressed your support for the employees that came and spoke. I want to thank you for that support. And when I reported that you were all very supportive and concerned about what they spoke about, I was bombarded shortly thereafter with questions about, so what's going to happen? What's next? What's next? And I'm here tonight pleased because we do have an agreed upon next step. In the email I sent you, I created a timeline of our efforts to professionally and productively address these concerns over time. And I wanted to give you that in writing so that we can learn from this experience and make sure that staff concerns are addressed in a more timely way in the future. And I think with the process that we've agreed to, I think that's entirely possible. If you flip to the end of the written packet I gave you, which is a copy of one of the things I emailed you today, at the very last page, after about 20 pages of comments that I got in addition to the people that spoke the other night here at the board meeting, I sat down with Superintendent Reedy and we agreed to the last thing on the page, and that is to create kind of an instructional council made up of APS department leaders, ATF union leaders, so that we can work on implementation and planning issues, so that practice and policy meet in the middle. So that when we need to do something different in our schools, we can hear from the practitioners and work on really thoughtful implementation plans. After I introduced this to the union reps last night, they broke out in applause. They were so excited to see that that was agreed to. And then they started immediately asking questions. There are many questions that remain, and it's urgent that we work first to clear up in writing to everybody what is and is not mandated, because there's a lot of confusion. As you read the employees' comments, I think that you'll notice that once we clear up those implementation and communication issues with the FBA and the BIP process, there are a lot of other issues left to work out in a collaborative process. And so I want to just say to all of you, thank you very much, to Superintendent Reedy, how much I appreciate the support and the process that we've agreed to, and I cannot express to you how optimistic this has made the employees of the district. Thank you.
All right. So I realized as I was going through this, I forgot to read the second page. There was a whole other list of things, but we got through it. Thank you for your input, and that concludes the public forum.
We'll go on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Reedy.
Thank you, Board President, Dr. Piercy, board members, community members, and staff and guests. And by saying guests, I'm talking about Lily. So I think she went to bed, though. One thing I'd like to share with you is that the New Mexico Public Education Department recognized Alamosa Elementary School at the state legislature on Friday, January 26th, for its effective bilingual multicultural education program. The school was selected for the bilingual Multicultural Education Program Recognition Award. It's not an easy thing to get, and it's quite an honor. A few of the factors contributing to the growth and success of the dual language program at Alamosa included hiring highly qualified bilingual educators, and you know how hard that is. Providing professional development opportunities based on best teaching practices and sound research, and forging relationships in the community, such as coordinating with the Partnership for Community Action to bring the early childhood school readiness and parent engagement curriculum called Abriendo Puertas, or Opening Doors, into the school system of resources. The school's bilingual team is dedicated to empowering students through meaningful, in-depth learning in both English and Spanish, and the program promotes positive self-identity. This is really the crux of the whole project. Respect for cultural diversity, and provides a strong foundation in language and academics. We're planning to recognize Alamosa staff at an upcoming board meeting. That'll be fun. I'm very proud of all the bilingual work happening at Alamosa and in the district as a whole, and will continue to push to see the work expand. If you know of any bilingually certified educators out there, please ask them to come our way. Es un programa muy precioso. It's really just a wonderful, precious program, and we need to grow it, and for the sake of our children. On Monday, January 22nd, West Mesa's Avid Sight Team sponsored an 8th grade shadow day for more than 80 students visiting from John Adams Middle School, Jimmy Carter Middle School, Truman Middle School, and one student coming all the way from James Monroe Middle School. Visiting students were able to get a feel for the expectations of high school, meet new friends, and ask those very important questions. It was a great experience for both future Mustangs and current students who had the opportunity to share their knowledge and experience and make those all-important connections. ABC Community School Partnership Board will very, very soon be naming the next executive director, replacing Jose Munoz, who ran away to Washington, D.C. Not that I'm angry at him or anything. The three candidates were Lisa Hovell, and she currently serves as the Associate Director for the New Mexico Coalition of to End Homelessness, and she earned her master's degree at UNM in Community and Regional Planning. Sandra Rooney, she is a recent PhD graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, with academic credentials from the University of California and Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. She has relocated to Albuquerque in pursuit of an opportunity to be engaged in the community-based advocacy that we have here. She's heard a lot about it. And Alicia Manzano, she currently serves as the Interim Communications Director for Mayor Tim Keller, and she's a former Vice President for Strategies 360 New Mexico. She earned a master's degree at UNM in Public Administration and Public Management. All are excellent candidates, and we look forward to continuing an active partnership with ABC Schools, and this is just the beginning of a wonderful relationship, so we'll be hearing very, very soon. As you know, Hurricane Maria devastated the Puerto Rico School District, a district of about 347,000 students who almost all qualify for free and reduced lunch. Our own John Dufay went to Puerto Rico after the hurricane as part of the Great City School team that was sent to assess school damages. And so Puerto Rico has a very special place in our hearts. More than 25,000 students and nearly 200 teachers and their families fled the island right after the hurricane. So not only was it devastated physically, but also in its heart. The aftermath of the storm continues to hamper the day-to-day operation of schools, and it's been months. 21 schools were closed because of the damage. 1/3 of the 1,110 schools that remain open have no power whatsoever. Teachers continue to struggle to get the basic resources that they need to do their jobs, including providing food and air conditioners when needed. In spite of all the hardships, teachers continue to teach and encourage the students in their care. They are truly the perfect example of true educators in their ceaseless dedication. All I can say all I can add to that is que viva Puerto Rico. We're right behind them, and we will keep you posted as things develop or if we find ways that we can support them. The Human Resources Department classified staffing team today had a very productive meeting recently with New Mexico Workforce Connections. The HR team met with the New Mexico Workforce Solutions Business Manager, Karen Holodek, and Area Manager, Michelle Velarde, who also happens to be a former APSer. We met to discuss staffing opportunities for the district's classified positions. We're hurting for teachers of all kinds and specialties, and we're hurting for classified folks to come and help us support the work of the schools. The New Mexico Workforce Connections is a one-stop resource for locating qualified, trained, and pre-screened applicants. We are both very, very excited to partner together to assist job seekers with employment at APS. Through this collaborative effort, the Human Resources Department discussed how New Mexico Workforce Connection can assist the district with staffing for educational assistants, food and nutrition service employees, custodians, and various trade and technical professional positions. Human Resources staffers attended a New Mexico Workforce Connection job fair earlier today. And they got there on a school bus. So we wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we had arrived. This was an opportunity for the Human Resources staffers to meet face-to-face with prospective employees who are qualified and ready to work. HR staff also were able to directly assist prospective candidates through our application process and answer any employment-related questions that they may have. We're very excited about working together with the New Mexico Workforce Connections to assist us with our staffing needs. And it's looking more and more like a marriage made in heaven. It's going to be great. Thank you so much. So Mr. Sedelki, a teacher at Madison Middle School, recently invited me to come and speak to his AVID class. 7th and 8th grade students are learning college-ready skills and building an array of strategies to fuel their lifelong education journey. Even at that age, they're already starting to think of the future. They regularly host guest speakers who have leveraged their education into a fulfilling career. So during my talk, I stressed the fact that as I worked my way through education and work, I was often scared. And I needed them to hear me say that. And many times I thought that I was the only one going through whatever was happening to me at that one time. But I wasn't. But I didn't know it at the time. So I encouraged them to run towards challenges, not away from challenges. I encourage them to run towards challenges and embrace them. Because by embracing challenges, you really grow into your true selves. The students were attentive, and when I finished, they had many questions, including, what's a mentor? Did I have a mentor? How did my mentor help me? Who I admired, I told them my grandma, and what's the best way to get a scholarship? I just really enjoyed that trip, and I've heard from them since that my visit, and so it's just really wonderful to see that they might have walked away with some insights that they didn't have before. The 9th Annual Festival de Bellas Artes was last week. I was sick, I couldn't make it, but the festival is supported by the National Hispanic Cultural Center and the APS Educational Foundation through the Dolde Charitable Trust. Dance and music groups from 39 APS and charter elementary, middle, high schools performed at the National Hispanic Cultural Center and participated in workshops on dance, music, and culture. Daniel Torres and Tom Brown were on site taking pictures, so let's watch a video taken during the festival. Wow, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just wonderful. Madison Middle School's principal, Deborah Garrison, has been elected to the Board of Directors of the Children's Grief Center of New Mexico. Debbie is always giving back to the community, and she's a very special individual, and I'm so proud that she is part of the APS family. And remember Frances Frost? She's the family ambassador at the U.S. Department of Education and an advocate for education and equity. She publicized our APS homework diner through Twitter. You remember her. She experienced homework diner firsthand and met with the board on a recent visit. Her Twitter feed was great publicity for the work of the Students, Family, and Community Support Division and the Family Engagement Departments and our community schools. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Reedy. We'll go on to special issues. We have an update of the status and progress of the MRI, the most rigorous intervention, CSI, comprehensive support and improvement, and TSI, target support and improvement schools, concentrating on CSI interventions and strategies, and that's a discussion with several of our associate superintendents.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. As you know, we are continuing down the path of preparing applications for the MRI, CSI, and TSI schools. And one of the fundamental pieces of the work is really building theories of action behind each school's plan and execution of interventions to meet the root cause of the goals that our schools have set forth in really proceeding accordingly with these applications. So tonight we would really like to spend some time discussing the process that has been used in building, structuring, and developing the narrative behind the theories of action that our CSI and MRI schools are using to supplement and make up their application. And to do that, we have Thomas Piper, the Director of School Accountability and Support, who has been instrumental in the work that we have been doing with our CSI and MRI schools specifically to guide us through that conversation. Mr. Piper.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez and President Piercy, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight to talk to you about theory of action. And the main idea of theory of action came to us through the CSI application, the grant for it. There's a line that prompts us to write a theory of action. And it actually, we started writing these theories of action for 17 CSI schools, and we found it to be quite helpful because it ensures that we are linking root causes with desired outcomes effectively in our plans. And so it's actually become an exercise that we're using with lots of schools as they work on their 90-day plans. The theory of action is usually more than one statement, can be a set of sentences or paragraphs. And what it does is it links 3 areas from the 90-day plan. The first area is a desired outcome, which is also known as a change of adult behavior. And what that is basically what practice will we change in order to meet a challenge that we want to change. The next area is root cause. And so the root cause, the idea of root cause actually is coming from the field of business, total quality management. And successful businesses use it all the time. And the idea of a root cause is that once you meet a root cause, if you address the root cause, then it will lead to a change automatically. So it's a scientific management principle. And finally, part of the theory of action statement is the goal. So for schools, that's a lot of times, if you're thinking about Tier 1 core instruction, that's a PARC goal, or a student learning goal in terms of some of the other focus areas like school culture or collaboration. It could be something else. That's the sum of theory of action. And the theory of action section is the area that we're asking schools to really interact with us as we do these applications. A lot of the areas of the application, we are actually working as a team in the district level to write. But these areas have been useful for schools, and they're localized in their context. The way that this is related to even more to these applications is that the applications ask for an evidence-based intervention. And we were, as we researched what an evidence-based intervention is, it's something that meets 3 tiers of evidence, and basically they're programs that have a research base in them that have been proven to have an effect, a measurable effect, so when they're applied in a school. And there are several programs and approaches. We mentioned AVID tonight. AVID is one of those programs that meets several focus areas. And I'll just mention it briefly. AVID, so there are 10 focus areas for 90-day plans. And there's about these 90-day plans, the teams are supposed to choose 2 or 3 focus areas that they feel would lead to the greatest impact. One of the required focus areas is Tier 1 intervention. So AVID meets the requirement for Tier 1 intervention in terms of its research. In other words, if a school were to use AVID with fidelity, then they would see a measurable change in Tier 1 core instruction. Also in the areas of school culture and collaboration. So as you can kind of think about this, it's a lot of things that we're throwing around here. But the idea is that a few strategies can actually meet several focus areas. And that's the main idea that we wanted to have you think about tonight as we're working on 90-day plans and the CSI grant applications.
Thank you, Mr. Piper. As you know, we will be before you at essentially every committee and board meeting rolling out pieces of information, as this is a mega project around the MRI, CSI, and TSI applications, including the DSS, Direct Student Support application that's connected to 2 of those categories. Next meeting, we will be really rolling out and beginning to share with you the narratives that schools are working very hard on composing. We have our CSI and MRI schools applications being populated, written, and developed on a minute-to-minute basis throughout the last several weeks. And at our next meeting, we're going to specifically share with you the theories of action and components of the applications that make up the MRI, the 3 MRI applications, to have a really in-depth conversation in reference to Los Padillas, Whittier, and Hawthorne elementary schools. With that, we stand for any questions that you may have at this point in reference to the aforementioned designated schools.
Board member comments? Board member Malarigan?
So I know Mr. Piper had said that a few strategies can meet many focus areas. So is this going to be one of your priorities then, to just focus on a few strategies?
President Piercy, Board Member Mueller-Aragon, Superintendent Reedy. That is the idea. For economy of motion and scale, in particular, for us in budgeting, we are looking at, our research team is actually looking at a few strategies that have been in use or that are commonly used in order to meet the requirements of focus areas. So, for example, 4 common ones would be iReady interim assessments, data-wise continuous improvement systems, which is Harvard-based, use of AVID and Wicker strategies, as well as the tripod student surveys, which measures 7 Cs.
And after you look at the 3 schools, because each school, of course, is going to be different, then you will decide which of those would work better in which school, correct?
These strategies can be used in both MRI and CSI applications.
Okay.
But when we're talking about these interventions, the main concern for us is to fulfill the CSI application. There seems to be a separate process which the superintendents can speak to regarding MRI application and that process.
Okay, so they can be used across all the MRI and the CSI schools. Okay, great. So we'll just have a little bit more about the theories of action, so you'll kind of be able to tell us, especially about the MRI schools, what is planned about changing adult behavior, about the root cause, and about the goals. So there'll be more specificity as we go through the process.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to follow protocol here, so President Piercy, Board Member Miller-Aragon, Superintendent Reedy, thank you. Yes, we will continue to unpack this idea, and you will see theory of action as a section in each of the applications that you review.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other board member comments? Next, Board Member Peterson.
Yeah, just thank you again to all the work that's being done. I mean, I think that what you laid out just now approaches how we address what's going on in these schools in the right way. And there's been a lot of community voice, staff voice, and even student voice. And I think that's really critical, looking at root causes and trying to not just do a knee-jerk kind of, easy, this is the silver bullet, all we have to do is put thousands of dollars into some magic program that doesn't exist. But I do have concerns about the assessments that go along with this, and when I hear iStation being the focal point and the interventions and progress monitoring coming from iStation, I'm a reading recovery teacher. I mean, I've spent 15 years of my life being a reading intervention teacher, and I have real concerns, and I know some of that's out of our hands, but I just think we need to really look at sound models for what kind of interventions, and that the assessments need to align with good instructional practice and really informing good instructional practice. So, I think that we're on track with the process, but as a professional, and I know we're not supposed to get into the weeds as board members, but I think it directs us when we take so evidence-based is too frequently, I think, misused. I mean, we can create circles of saying, okay, we're using iStation for assessment, so I'm going to create my instructional interventions for something that I know will show up on iStation, and we create this loop. And lots of times the evidence-based stuff, research, is being done by the exact people that are marketing a particular tool, rather than something that's truly peer-reviewed and based in actual scientific research documentation and best practice. And so I understand that we've got to juggle what's in our control and what's not in our control for what gets approved, but I really hope that one of the things that we can keep our eye on is really and truly what is good practice and what assessments can we use to indicate growth or not. But let the good practice, the good content, the good instruction, and the standards guide where the assessment comes from rather than vice versa.
I'm going to see if Board Member Garcia is still on the line, see if you have any comments. Lorenzo, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I'm going to let you have a comment if you have any comments, please.
Dr. Piercy. Well, I'm very intrigued and appreciate the work that's gone into thinking about this, and I'm curious and sort of scratching my head about some of what was said. I didn't get to hear it all real well. Hopefully I can review the minutes and the reports that have been prepared for us this evening. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there. The issue of root causes is a very interesting issue, and just from a public health framework, I understand that there are root causes that aren't necessarily in your calculations, and I'm wondering how we're going to account for these things. How are we going to address, for example, issues of poverty or hunger or unemployment or housing, adequate housing for families? To me, these are core root cause issues. Perhaps folks may be scratching their heads thinking, why on earth am I bringing these things up? Well, I think it really is relevant. I don't know, I haven't seen any analysis of these different populations and what's happening within these populations. There are other things that concern me. Family stability, are families in a place to be able to tackle this kind of approach that we're putting forward, whether it's iStation, iReady, or whatever, if they're having other issues. And I really think our community schools needs to be heavily emphasized, and hopefully we can engage other sectors of the community, various bureaucracies and agencies that can help us. I was very impressed and encouraged to hear about our relationship with Workforce Solutions that's being created. My hope would be that part of the interventions would look at some of these core root cause issues that I didn't hear in your analysis. I am concerned that part of what's happened is we are using data that, in my mind, is questionable. Things like the assessments of coming from PARC or teacher evaluations or those kinds of things. There's still more rigorous examination of those things, and I'm hoping that there will be an opportunity that the courts will say what they think about these things. I am very, very concerned that we've had essentially a number of years where we've pursued things that are based on a fabricated crisis. And I don't deny that we have need to improve in all of our schools, but I think the factors are multiple, and the core root causes include things like poverty, hunger, unemployment, the effects of certain issues in families' lives like addictions. All of those things are important to try to understand as we begin to tackle this. And I have to say that it has to be something that engages family members, parents, and students themselves on these things as well. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Other comments? From anybody?
I guess the only thing I wanted to say is that the way that everything is looking, I'm still fairly new on the board, and I'm trying to grasp all these things. It's like, it feels like we're just approaching everything from like this real academia to, in terms of like best practices and a guidance for this. And I know that there's like a portion of this that just really takes into account that these are real people, these are real schools, these are real communities. And, the unfortunate part is that I know that there's this stress, from the public ed department in terms of the way that the application is made up and what's required from us to actually fill the boxes, if you will. And so I'm hoping that as we're going through this process, because I continue to look at it from like a perspective of, like from a social work, community capacity building, and what are we leveraging and what are we actually going to be, doing. Because I get the thing around we have to figure out how to evaluate and how to like assess progress as we're moving along. But I'm hoping that part of that also includes, some sort of the human aspects of it that's also going to resonate for the community and also for the students and the families. That it's not just the performance test and the pieces that are, you know, that somehow get lost in translation, I think, for families and especially for students. Because if all you see is that you're not performing well, that you're not doing okay on things, it also becomes just a real downer, and it doesn't create a lot of energy or enthusiasm to like stay the course and keep moving and moving towards progress. And so I also, you know, appreciate the work that's going on, but I'm hoping that we can also come to some way of how we're articulating what we're doing to, that it's also, that it's articulated well enough for the communities to also understand it. You know, I'm the community in a way, and I'm really having a hard time still also following what we're planning to implement and how that's going to look. And I think that's important. And I'm being honest. I'm not a seasoned educator, but do I need to be? You know, and so neither are families and neither are students. And so I think we need to just think about it that way too. Let's try to make it like real so that it's something that we can all hug, we can all grasp on, and we're all like, yes, I can do that, I can support that. That's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you, Board Member Yolanda. Board Member Patterson.
I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Board Member Armijo.
I appreciate the board members' comments and questions, and I have nothing further.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with root cause analysis. And typically I find that we don't really do root cause analysis. We do direct causes, and we apply something, and we try to band-aid something. And the point of root cause analysis and extended condition is to find what affects many things, not just one thing. So if I may start with something called an assessment, and I want it to be better. Proficiency, English language proficiency, I want it to be better. Maybe that's an issue I have, right? So I work my way down to say, well, what are direct causes for that? Well, kids not coming to school. Oh, okay, that probably affects it. Or maybe his language issues, or maybe he has learning disabilities, or, you know, there are lots of things that might directly affect his ability to score well on some kind of a proficiency test. But that may not be the root cause that we're looking for. There may be something else that's driving all of those things. And so the question of root cause, and then looking at not only does that affect proficiency, but does it affect a lot of other things? Does it affect behavior? Does it affect, there's lots of things that it might affect. And so you really try to look at the extended condition on that. And that's very complex. That's a complex kind of a process. That's not something you say, well, I've got 4 different programs I think that are going to affect it. That response to intervention may be very individual, even though what you're trying to do is to find out what are some commonality in those root causes that would not only help this kid, but that kid and that kid and that kid, and you know what I mean? So you're trying to look at the common. And so I hope that that's what we're looking for when we look at this theory of action idea. I mean, this is not anything new. I've been doing this for a long time. And it always seems to be a surprise to anybody I talk to what I think about it. But it's okay, because I think, again, that's part of the investigation of what we have to do. So I look forward to hearing that and to seeing some real examples. For example, Las Padillas. What's the root cause of Las Padillas? Give me one, or tell me. You know, I'm not asking now, but I'm just saying when you find it, if you find it, and then tell me how is that going to affect a lot of things. You know, the interventions you're doing are trying to say, if I address that root cause, I'm going to get a lot of effect everywhere. I got to leverage this, not one at a time and hope that I can, you know, help one kid or another kid. I'm trying to help the whole process here. So I'd be interested to know when you finally get some of these things and you get an actual lineage of what the effect you want and what is the root cause and how's that going to affect things, and then what are the interventions I'm going to try to put in place. Not, I got an intervention here and I hope it works. I hope I got a problem I'm solving. And so that's what I get a uncomfortable feeling about, is that I got an intervention, and I sure hope I got a problem here that this works on. You know, and I've tried that too, by the way. You know, sometimes it works, but so yeah. Thanks a lot. I think again we're on to a lot of interesting discussions, and I hope that again our perspective of what we think it is that we want to get to is what we want to end up with. I mean, that may help. It may end up being something the public education department wants too. I don't know. But I think the question is what's right to do for us, and what is right outcome for us. And if it gets us to the point of scoring well on some assessment, good. I think that's great. But it should, because if we're talking about being competent in terms of whatever these skills are that we want our students to have, behavior as well as whatever, that ought to help us no matter what it is we're doing. So hopefully that's where we're going to go with that. So thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Yes.
One of the things that I'd like to mention is that, and I appreciate the comments from all of the board, is that we really are walking a fine line in that.
Yeah.
And that they're not necessarily bad. In fact, some of them are very, very good, but we need to make it fit for our needs. And I'm very appreciative of the staff and their hard work, because they are really, truly taking their time so that we don't have a checkbox, you know, something to check off and turn in. And at the same time that we find something that is useful for the uniqueness of the schools that we're working with. And I can honestly tell you it's been very difficult, but very good, thoughtful conversations are taking place with the schools and the staffs. And I know we're meeting daily with, not daily, how many times do we meet with Ellen? Seems like daily. But weekly, again, just so that we have this perspective of, you know, the teachers, not only the teachers at the schools, but the teachers as a whole. And I think a lot of good will come from this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll go on to the item B, which is the consideration of approval of assurances in support of the MRI, CSI, TSI, and DSS grants and applications submitted to the New Mexico Public Education Department in February. That's a discussion and an action. And Gabriella.
Good evening, Board Member Piercy, members of the board. Tonight we have in front of you the assurances that are for each of these applications. So just a reminder, the assurances are the same, but the applications that you'll see in the upcoming weeks are different. So just to remind you, the MRI are the applications from Whittier, Hawthorne, and Los Padillas, and those assurances are connected to the redesign. All three schools picked option 4, which was to significantly redesign and restructure their school. The CSI schools are the 17 schools that have come before you that are CSI despite their, if they ask for money. So the application for CSI schools is asking for money for interventions. And then the TSI are 37 schools, and the DSS, which is a direct student support, is asking for money to support direct student support for the TSI schools. So it's up to your pleasure of the board as to if you want to adopt those assurances altogether or if you wanted to separate them. There's the same assurances, but you'll find them on different applications when you review them in a couple of weeks.
So I just have a quick question. So these assurances are mandated by whom?
These are mandated by the Public Education Department as part of the grant. So when we submit the grant, we have to have the assurances signed in order to send them up to Santa Fe.
Okay, so the 5 bullet points that you have there are all mandated by the Public Education Department?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is that exactly how they're written for every district? It's going to be exactly like this?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, again, too, if there are particular issues for an individual board member with one of the bullets, you can mention that. It's fine. If you want to vote against it, that's fine. If we as a board support it overall as a majority, then we as a board support it, even though individuals may not support it. I also think, you know, the only one that in reality bothers me a little bit is the summative and formative assessment.
And we had talked about that.
We've talked about that.
So a lot of us don't.
Yeah. So let me give you an interpretation that I can live with, and that is that I do believe in summative and formative assessments in general, right? Mm-hmm. Whether I believe the ones we have are the right ones or not is maybe a different question. And they didn't ask me that question. Right. In reality, I know what they want to have here, but in reality, I do believe in summative and formative assessments. I do believe they're important. I think they're useful if they're done well, and if in fact they're used for the right things. So this is going to be a long process here. We're talking about 3 years. So we're talking about the opportunity to make it right, depending upon how, in fact, things go in the future. And so, you know, I'm willing to live with that idea in my own personal opinion, not necessarily saying I agree with everything the Public Education Department is doing, but I do agree with some of the things that we have to do to show some kind of progress and some kind of growth. But the question is, how do we do that?
And that also is kind of,
right.
Dr. Piercy, that is kind of vague. What is student proficiency? What is school growth? I mean, that's just vague.
Those are vague, because if the assessments don't really tell us totally what that is, then the problem was with the assessment, not with the fact that we believe in assessments necessarily. And we may believe in certain assessments that, in fact, have maybe a broader kind of a focus, not just a focus on maybe English language and math, you know, but a broader, you know, focus. And I mean, a focus on, you know, character, a focus on the kind of things that, you know, are also important, I think.
mean, like I've always said, and I think everybody here believes the same thing, a child is just not a test score. No. And this is kind of almost saying that. There's so much more than that. But we're just looking at, right. You know, and I am all for testing if it's well done. I was a teacher, I had to test.
Yeah, and I know that when I do formative and assessment tests, as I did, I knew exactly what I was doing, and I believed in what I did. But that doesn't necessarily mean everybody would believe in what I did necessarily. But and so I think, again, from my perspective anyway, there's a lot of interpretation in these what we call assurances, but I think, again, for the most part, if I interpret it the way I want to, I can live with some of the things, you know. Now, that may still not be true for everybody, but, you know, I'm trying to make it so that this is not just a point solution, but this is a solution that we're trying to work over a period of time. And we should think of this as an opportunity for us to look at how we really improve all of our schools. This isn't just about MRI and CSI schools. This is about how do we really look at our kids and how do we really make it better for all of our students, you know? And so I think if we do it right, and if we learn right, and if we do the right things in terms of what we're looking at, and then we will get the kind of results we want to get. And whether it's everybody's, you know, method or not, I think we will know that that's the right thing we're doing. And so that's kind of how I interpret these things, you know. I know that that may be not the exact interpretation that's being put out by those that are mandating it, but that's okay with me, because I'm willing to talk to them about that. I'm willing to say, look, we can have some disagreements about that, but the basic principles here are not bad. You know, the basic principles are not bad. And if we can interpret that right, and if we can do it right, then I think we'll be okay. So that's kind of how, you know, my thought about it, rather than trying to get into too many people's interpretation of it. But I want a kind of more general interpretation, saying, let's take a long look at it. Let's take a 3-year look at it. And, you know, who knows? The changes may happen. Things may happen. You know, I suspect they may, you know, because there may be different people who are leading the public education department, and they may have a different view of things, right? But within that context, I still think that we can do the things that are right for us. And so that's kind of my thought on it. And other people, you know, Elizabeth?
Well, I agree with you, and I think the one who mandates this also has their own interpretation of many
sure
different
they do.
things.
Of course they do.
So why not us have our own interpretation of it?
Right.
But I agree with you on that too. I also had a problem with that bullet for the same reasons. But I agree with you, especially on that long, strategic kind of vision of 3 years.
And if we really want to get support, you know, to do the things we want to do, then to some extent we're compromising a little bit in that thought, you know. I mean, we may think there's other assurances we'd rather
Well,
have.
I would like assurances from other people as well. It's like we're giving everything.
Yeah, do you have
What
assurances
are
for
we getting
us?
from
What
other
are you-
people? Like, that seems unfair to me, that we're giving everything, and who's giving?
Right. Well, and you know, I mean, again, what assurances are we getting from the public education department? Other than, okay, we're getting some funds, let's say, but how about the help and the collaboration that we need to have to make sure that as we progress here, and we may flexibly change things, how we do it, let's work together on this, you know what I mean? So that we get what we both need to have. And so hopefully that's part of, you know, the agreement to some extent, is to make sure that, you know, that's going to happen. Whether it's the way it really is at this point in time, I don't know, but the point is that's where we ought to go with it, you know, so that we can make it a little more positive, and then we can make it something that we can get behind and say, let's make sure that we do a good job of what we're trying to do here, not a knee-jerk reaction, not a let's just check the box off here and make sure we've got that box checked. But what do we really need to do? And so that's what I want to hear from. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about the root cause and stuff. I want to know what you're talking about here. Not that I want all the details, but, you know, how does it really work? And then we'll see how the progress works, you know, in terms of how we're working with that. And so that's kind of how I look at the assurances. But, yeah, are there other comments from others? You know, Barbara? Yeah?
I mean, I don't think we have much choice but to accept this, because if we don't accept it, then something will be imposed on us.
Right.
And I think we're going about dealing with it with the voice of the
Barbara,
community.
what will be imposed? What do we know? I mean, that should be a question that we should have before we say we're going to do it. What will be imposed? Like, what, sure, are they going to change these assurances? If we say no, I mean, I'm curious.
I think we have every right to be curious, but I don't think that anyone in this room has the ability to answer that, because it's a decision that's outside of this. So I think we just continue to pursue what we know is best for our schools and put it forward and stand by that and collaborate whenever we can. No matter what we do, they're the ones who are going to set the cut score. They're going to be the ones that are going to decide what's proficient and what's not proficient, and where schools should be and by what tool. I think that we need to make sure that we're doing what we know is right for students in our schools, and we've gotten the voice. I mean, the fact that for the 3 MRI schools, that those communities are committed to their schools. They're committed to keeping those schools their schools and working to really and truly address needs. And I think the work that's being done is trying to do that. So, I mean, I am comfortable to the extent that it's possible to be comfortable with this, to say, we'll support it, we'll vote for it, but it's in process. We only know what we know.
I
and
mean,
it's
what my
gonna
concern,
be
of
moving
course,
forward.
is that things can get changed, just like when they say, oh, the evaluation, we're going to do this, we're going to do a percentage, then it's something different. I mean, we just need to somehow have assurances that things are not going to change. I want assurances, just kind of to what Member Montoya Cordova said, that I want assurances from the zone superintendent and the superintendent that they're going to be looking at the child, that those those are kids, those are people, and we're just not looking at these programs. I mean, because I'm not a big person, you know, big for iStation, just being a kindergarten teacher. I mean, that's not something I'm all for. But I want assurances that, hey, if this doesn't work, are you going to put your job on the line? Look what we do. Look what we do all the time. And it all comes back to us, and they can kick me out next year and say, hey, you weren't thinking about the kids first. I just think we're always saying, yes, we're giving these assurances, but we never get anything. And I think sometime we have to step up and say, I'm done, like doing this, I'm done. But that's just me. I know how I'll vote, but, you know.
Dr. Piercy, Board Member Pearson, in response to your question about what would happen if you don't sign the assurances, it's not as nebulous. I think that if you were to not sign the assurances for the MRI, the 3 MRI schools, we would not be able to submit an application. Therefore, the Public Education Department would pick one of the 4 options. If you were not to sign the assurances for the CSI schools, or the TSI DSS, then it would mean that the schools would not be eligible to receive the funding. So that's kind of what would happen if you don't
they back you into
sign the assurances.
So I'd like to make a motion for the consideration of approval of the assurances for MRI, CSI, and TSI.
Okay, you've got a motion and a second. Let me make one other comment, and that is that we also have no assurance that if we do sign this and you guys put in a nice application, it'll actually be accepted.
Right.
And if it is not accepted, now the question becomes, whoa, wait a minute, you know, are they then able to do whatever they want to do anyway? And so I think there's some assurances we need to have from them that, hey, if we plan to do this and we give you a reasonable plan, which in fact I hope you're working with them all the time so that they know what it is we're doing, that it will be accepted. You know, that's part of the deal here. And so if we're committing to these things and the staff is committing to these things and you're putting together a good plan, well then I don't think it's up to the Public Education Department to say, we didn't like what you did. You know what I mean? Because I think, again, that's part of what we need to make sure that we make a point that we expect it to be in fact accepted. Now, how much funds we get with that, well, that's depending on how much funds they have probably, but I'm just talking about the acceptance of our plan. So, call for the question. We have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call on that just to make sure we've got a roll call, okay?
Yes. No.
Are you with us, Lorenzo?
Yes, I am. I also, hello.
Oh, did you have any comments? Yeah, I should have probably asked that. I'm sorry.
I've been trying to make a comment for the last 2 minutes.
I'm sorry.
My comment is that I can't tell what it is we're trying to commit to. And it feels like a little bit like Russian roulette, not knowing the results once we say, yes, we'll do this. So I'm concerned. If a particular school is having difficulties, let's say, for example, with proficiency, which I'm not so sure that I agree with that concept, but if a school makes, for example, advances, and let's say a group of students advance 2 grade levels up to, but not the grade level that they're in, what do we do when that happens? To me, that shows tremendous amount of growth, but it doesn't necessarily meet the goal that is being put on us. And I'm just wondering if we could ask for a dialogue with PED to sit down and talk about what is it we're committing to here, to try to see if we can clarify this. It feels to me like our authority as a board has been undermined consistently by this administration, and it continues to be undermined.
But I think what the superintendents have expressed before is that you are working closely with those departments within PED, right, and you have a verbal assurance that you are on track, and not necessarily with the MRI, but you have those rubrics and those benchmarks on those other applications. And so you have a sense of assurance in the fact that you're working closely with those departments within the PED that assist you with this, and that you are on track with your application and your ideas and your theories. And
I think the plan itself should detail what kind of goals, what kind of growth, what kind of things we're talking about. So we're not necessarily being restricted by what the public education department thinks that is, but there should be some agreement in terms of that plan and what it is we're saying we're going to make progress in terms of this kind of thing. So in terms of Lorenzo's example, if that's the kind of progress we think would be reasonable to make and we can do that, then that was what we would commit to trying to do. That doesn't mean that things may not change. I think, again, we've got to be flexible in terms of if things don't look good in a particular way, then we have an opportunity to say we can change that. And that's part of the plan probably. But so anyway, Lorenzo, so you have a chance to vote, plus a chance to say what you said.
Well, I tried to make some sense. I'm not sure that it got out. You know, I will support this, so I will vote yes. But I would also ask that we have a request to PED to sit down and dialogue with them to make sure we're on the same page.
Well, I think they're doing that all the time. The question is do you want to have them dialogue with us as a board, or do you want to have the dialogue with the staff?
Yes, I would like us to be included in that dialogue.
Take that into consideration for our staff. Okay?
We're providing I agree with Member Garcia, we're providing the insurances. We should be able to dialogue.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're kind of getting it secondhand in the sense that the staff is going to be dialoguing with us quite a bit, but we're not getting a direct dialogue with PED. So, yeah, it's a reasonable request. If we think that it'd be useful to have those staff at the Public Education Department come and talk with us about what these assurances mean and exactly what it is we expect, we may change our vote. But we can talk to them about our interpretation, about it. And so I think that's a possibility.
Dr. Piercy, members of the board, just for clarification, when you receive the applications, you're going to receive one for each school. So you'll have the 3 MRIs as separate applications and then the 17 CSI schools. The Public Education Department does provide technical assistance if we have questions. There's a rubric for the CSI, so we do have a pretty good roadmap as far as if we're along the right track. But as far as the MRI, they don't provide any assistance on telling us whether we're on track. They provide technical assistance if we have questions about the application.
So we ought to provide our own rubric so that we say this is what we think it is, and hopefully you guys will agree because we've talked with you about it. Anyway, we'll continue. So Lorenzo says yes. Go ahead with the roll call.
Barbara Peterson? Well, since we're making comments, I'm going to vote yes, although I certainly I share the concerns for a no vote, but I think that we need to be able to move forward with the application process. And so to me, a yes vote means that we're going to continue with the work that's being done and continue developing what will be submitted in the application. Sure. And at policy and instruction next week, this will come back yet again. And I think at that point, there'll be more detail in the actual applications, and we'll have more opportunity to see what it looks like. But I think we've got to be able to keep moving forward in that application process and the work with the schools.
Okay, so what is
so it's a yes.
Okay.
Patterson? It's a yes, but I'm concerned that, there's no clear direction with an MRI, and I'm very concerned with that there's no clarification, and all of these conversations are just simply verbal, and I don't know how you honor that sometimes, but it's a yes at this point.
Elizabeth Armijo?
Yes.
Dr. David Piercy?
Yes. Okay. So with a lot of comment.
Lots of yes.
And I think, again, you're right, Barbara, just to make the mention is that we still have these plans that we have to basically approve. And so hopefully we'll understand better what we mean by those plans. And if those plans follow the kind of things that we believe we can adjust to, then, and if that goes through with the Public Education Department, well, then that's maybe another way that we can look at how we want to support and with our assurances. So, okay, thank you. Go on to the last item here in the special issues, and that's a legislative update by Dr. Escobedo.
Mr. President, members of the board, Madam Superintendent, quick update from Santa Fe. Things are going as well as can be expected. Quick budget update. The House did pass their budget. It is in the Senate. The House version of the budget included 2.5% salary increases for teachers, 2% increases for all other personnel, and it also increases the minimum salaries for teachers to $36,000, $44,000, and $54,000. There's a couple of other bills out there on teacher salaries that we've been watching. None have made significant movement, but all increase salaries significantly. We just are going with that number because that's what was based in the budget, and that's what we know we would be adequately funded for. The Senate will start their budget work. They've been working on it, but they'll roll some things out most likely this weekend. And so we're keeping our eyes on that. We're tracking almost 700 pieces of tracking 300 pieces of legislation. About 700 bills have been introduced. On page 2, you should note Senate Joint Memorial 21, sponsored by Senator John Sapien, was introduced. And I provided you some text from the Joint Memorial. You may know this, but a joint memorial is a request. When they do joint, it means that it would have to pass through both houses before the request would become official, if you will. And so that request does ask the Legislative Education Study Committee, the Legislative Finance Committee, the PED, and the Center for Educational Policy Research at the University of New Mexico to study the costs and benefits of redistricting a large school district. That committee, this joint memorial, has received 2 referrals in the Senate. It was introduced on January 29th, and at this point has not received a hearing. We have had some positive conversations with the sponsor, and so we continue to watch that. On the 3rd page, we are tracking, as I said, several hundred bills, but I provided you an analysis of some of the significant bills that we're really paying attention to, and I also provided you the location. At this point, a lot of these bills have a really hard time getting through the other chamber, just the way the legislature is moving. And so they're also making some major changes to the bill to try to get them to move. So for example, today you will see House Bill 86, which is the school bus replacement and contract bill. The original bill would have changed how often we replace our school buses from 12 years to 15 years. What they did today in committee, in which we supported, is that it would leave it up to school districts. If you had a bus that you wanted to run over 12 years and it was in good operating condition, you'd be able to submit a waiver to the PED to make it last longer. And that may be something we would want to do if a bus was running low miles and at that 12th year they were only at 100,000 miles instead of the 300,000 that's typical for a 12-year bus. So that's just an example of kind of what's going on to try to get some of those bills moving. So I stand for any questions, but things are looking good.
Okay, board members, questions? I'll start down here with Board
I
Member
appreciate
Amigo.
the update. I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Board Member Patterson.
No, I just appreciate all the work you do on this. I mean, you're wearing 2 hats, and what an outstanding job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Board Member Montoya Cordova.
No questions.
Okay. Board Member Peterson.
So are you hopping in your car at the end of this meeting and running back up so that you can prowl the halls all night long?
No, the House is in session. They were hearing some memorials, and I think they did 2 bills this evening. So I listened to both of you and them on the way down here. But we're doing good. We'll be back up in the morning. But things are good.
it's sort of a blessing that it's a short session, and if I can count correctly, the education committees, for instance, probably only have three more times that they'll meet. So it might help not have to deal with some of the not so good legislation.
Yes.
So that's
yes, and I know you had a couple of questions on some specific bills, and I'm prepared to answer. I was supposed to do that in my update, and I forgot, so Mr. Melendres is going to be mad at me.
The Senator Kernan's bills that would basically open the door for vouchers, and it looks like they're not going to get scheduled.
Yes, those two. There's two bills: Senate Bill 240 and Senate Bill 241, and there's similar bills in the House that would align the. You've heard of the 529 tax credit or education fund. We would align that to the bills would align that to federal standards. Those bills are very complicated, and in the Senate they've been rolled over for a hearing because they were just too complicated and the committees weren't approving them. In the House, they were scheduled today. They were removed from the schedule, so they have not made significant movement.
Okay.
Which makes me
happy. And I wanted to mention that you may have been aware of House Bill 180, which is the administrative cost bill, essentially from Think New Mexico. That has been rolled over as well, I think 3 or 4 times. So they made some changes in that bill that we know that they're going to propose in committee for some charter schools and from smaller schools, but they didn't make any changes for the larger school districts. So, but again, there's not a lot of time to get that bill through.
I wish they would simply look at this and realize that it's not necessary.
Yes, and we did talk to Representative Ladinyaga and provided him that information, which was very helpful. So,
the one other thing, and I think this is important for any of us who are talking to legislators, the increases, the salary increases, certainly anything at this point is, hallelujah that it's at least on the table. But I think it's really important for legislators to realize that it's not just teachers that work in the district and that we have speech and language pathologists, we have nurses, we have a whole array of absolutely critical certified people who we need the funds from Santa Fe so that we maintain the integrity of all of the certified people who work in our district and serve kids. But more than that, I think the most outrageous thing is that means that the people who are lowest paid would also get the lowest percentage of raise. Talking about 2% when we have EAs, bus drivers, custodians, all the people who make the least in this district, and providing a 2% raise means that not only is it not as high of a percentage, but it's a real pittance. And legislators, I think, somehow don't process. They say teacher and don't realize that that is a very specific category of human beings in schools. And we need, I think all of us need to make sure that we're talking to them to make them realize that it's a team that makes schools work, and that to give an EA a smaller percentage than a teacher is just mind-boggling. Plus, where are we going to come up with the money for any of it if we're not including all certified staff with the 2.5? And I think they just need to hear that from us over and over again, because they seem to not understand.
Yes, Mr. President and Board Member Peterson, yes, we have carried that message as well. In fact, sometime over the past week, I think, the CWA from a lot of our maintenance and operation personnel were up on a day visiting, and so we got to speak with them and give them an update, and we used some of their stories to tell the exact same thing that you said. So, you know, it's all a collaborative effort, and we're doing our best.
I have total confidence that you are doing everything you can to convey that message. It just might be good to have a few more voices.
And that'll be a good thing for you to emphasize this next few days, especially in the Senate side. So,
thank you. Thanks for that work.
Board Member Miller-Aragon.
I had a couple of questions, Dr. Escobedo. On the parental notification via text, what do you think is going to happen to that? I have trouble with that since we have a lot of parents whose plans, I mean, they can't afford it. And so I have trouble with them asking districts to do this when they're not putting the money. It's like another unfunded mandate, right? So I just don't understand why we want to why they even want to do this, but whatever. Do you know where that's going to go, or what do you think?
So, Mr. President and Board Member Mueller-Aragon, it is in its second committee, has not been scheduled for the House Education.
It probably won't go.
Yes, but Minority Leader Gentry did put $500,000 in House Bill 2 to fund that project. Now, we did have a conversation with him. If that bill does not move, there will still be the appropriation, and so he would like to work with us on a pilot to see how we could do this. So we've had great dialogue with him, and so we've been really open to it, and so it's been a good conversation, and he was really eager to have the good dialogue that we've had on it. So he was surprised that we were even supporting his bill. So
well, that's good. There's money on the table. Not bad. The other thing is on the additional graduation requirements. We just keep adding more to kids, more to staff at schools. So the kids have to take all the classes they have to pass all those classes. Then they have to get a certain score. And then now they're going to have to do this. And not that I don't think that it's a good idea in a way, but not to make it part of a graduation requirement. I think if kids can get counseled and go, hey, have you ever thought about college, and they've never thought about it, that's a very good thing. But to just add layer upon layer upon layer upon kids and expecting more from our staff to make sure that all of these things are done, I can't imagine the counselors at the schools, at the high schools, being able to do all of this and making sure they check to make sure they apply to school, that they are in the military, that they have an internship. Where's that going to go?
So, Mr. President and Board Member Mueller-Aragon, again, that same, those
in the same committee,
House Bill 22 and House Bill 23 are both in House Education.
Right.
We don't expect those bills to make it with the time. But again, we've had really good dialogue with Minority Leader Gentry about the implementation and how we do that if it were to pass and aligned with the next step plan. We've had really good input from our curriculum and instruction department and Assistant Superintendent Dr. Serna Marmol. So again, I think we're planting good seeds for collaboration and conversations, knowing that these bills don't have a lot of chance because of time. So at least it's not just a no, it's what can we do to work together? And so
right, there's some good points in both. I mean, in both those bills, there's some really good things that I'm totally and completely behind. But just adding more without getting something, I just don't. Thank you, though.
Yes.
There were those two bills I think are real interesting, and I didn't say anything because I think they are going to go down. But the load, the burden that would put on teachers. I mean, it's not just the software, which phone, where is it going to come from? So it's not just the money, but the text message. Who's going to do that? Where's the free time for teachers? Teachers are already struggling to have time to contact parents, to have meaningful communication, and to put one more layer of mandate on them. I think it's beyond just the cost, which is huge, but it's also
The implementation.
the reality. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Board Member Garcia.
Board Member Millardo, we agree.
Yes, I can't tell. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I think pretty much all the concerns that I had have been raised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Garcia. Yeah, I think they've been voiced by everybody here. I personally don't see any implementation capability for HB 22 and 23. We're already doing an awful lot of the same things in both of those in the manner that we can do that. You know, notifying parents, having information, doing the FAFSA stuff for the students, you know, helping them with their next plans and so forth. But to make it a requirement, let's say for graduation, give me a break, you know, I won't ever support that. So, and the Think New Mexico, yeah, I already have my opinions on that one. So appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you very much, Joseph, and keep us abreast. And we will be up there, of course, tomorrow, the next day, some of us. So let us know what we need to do, okay?
Yes, well, Mr. President and board members and superintendent, Ms. Yeager and Mr. Melendres and I already have a schedule for you, so
Okay.
we expect you to be on time.
Okay. Oops.
No, in all seriousness, we do have a plan for you to come up and some of the individuals we'd like you to talk to.
Yeah,
So
and
we've been thinking about it.
So you have those already scheduled, and we have a time, and we're just going to walk in, and we don't have to bump elbows.
We're not that precise
Oh.
because, but there's not a lot of committee hearings tomorrow morning, so we do know where a lot of legislators will be.
Okay, really good. Thank you, Joseph. We really appreciate the information, and we'll see if we can follow up. So we have board member comments. We've already had a lot of board member comments. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we need.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Approval of the consent items. Yeah, we have just a couple of consent items that came out of our policy and finance. So do I have a motion for approval?
I move for approval of consent calendar items.
Okay, do we have a second? It's been moved and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Board member comments. I'll just start here with Board Member Merla-Garragon, and you guys can keep it as short as you want.
Or as long as we want, right?
Well, I am bound by that, too.
I tried to go to the Festival de las Bellas Artes, but there was a long wait. So, and there were parents that were waiting out there, and so they said they've been waiting since 5 o'clock. I stayed until about 10 after 6 and just thought the parents should still go in first. So it's obviously was extraordinarily successful, and so we may want to have more performances, I think. I mean, with 39 schools, that's a lot of parents and grandparents. So, you know, I wish I could have got in, but I couldn't. I want to say congratulations to all the newly promoted police officers and thank them for their service to our community of children. We're always indebted to you. The tobacco-free, I mean, that's something to look at. I don't know. I kind of looked at it really quickly. It doesn't seem like too many changes, or they're very simple, so I don't think that's a bad thing. But I remember when I was at West Mason School, the students had a smoking section. Imagine that today. And the teachers did, but the students did. I was like, I remember that when I was in high school. Another thing that we had talked when we were talking about the homeless students, and we had a little report about that. So I called the Secretary of CYFD, and what I found out is something that I think I needed to make sure to pass on to Superintendent Reedy is that it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we report these homeless students, as this is considered abandonment, neglect, abuse. And so if we know who those students are, we have got, just like any of us, if we saw a child, it is up to us to make sure that we report that. So if we do know who these children are, there's lots of services that they can receive from CYFD. So I want to make sure that I know that we were told that they had other more important things to do. That's their most important charge, is making sure kids are safe. So we need to, if we know who those 4,000 and some kids are that are homeless, then we need to make sure and pass those names on, especially, they said, those children who are unaccompanied minors. The other thing I kind of wanted to go over and kind of tell a little story about a young adult that his case was heard this past week. He was a young adult and got in trouble. He pled to aggravated DUI, and this was back in 2007. His sentence was 90 days, and he was supposed to serve that in 2008. He asked his lawyer when he was supposed to go and report to jail, and his lawyer didn't really know exactly because there wasn't a firm date, and he said he would take care of it. So this young, very young man just went about his life, got a job. He was also, English was not his first language. So there may have been some miscommunication there, but he went about his life, got a job, got married, bought a home, never got in trouble again. This is 2007. Well, he got stopped at one of the checkpoints. So this child, this young, still pretty young man, I guess what they can do is, he wasn't drinking, had said he hadn't been drinking, but they can still check on them. That's up to the discretion of the police officers. So they went and ran a check. Well, of course, he had a bench warrant back from 2007. So, of course, he was arrested, got a lawyer, went to court, and the judge listened to him and saw what a wonderful job he had done with his life. You know, never got in trouble again. And he should have imposed not only those 90 days, but the fact that he didn't even go turn himself in. But the judge said, you have made a really good life for yourself and for your family. And so he said, go out and keep on making that wonderful future. So I thought that was a really good thing for us to think about when we're thinking about divvying out punishment. When it comes to the Volcano Vista and Cibola High School altercation that took place the week before last, a lot of those children, most of them, were not fighting. They were not throwing physical punches. They were in like kids are. We have to remember that kids are kids. They don't think through things like we do. And so when we're giving out punishment, let's make sure that we think about how those kids have lived their life before we go and suspend them. And some of these children were athletes who were given a 5-day, 3 or 5 day suspension, even though everything was caught on camera and everything's posted, because that's what kids do now. But the parents were not allowed to look at the video because there were other children involved. But in this day and age, we can, block out those faces. So a lot of those would have been able to exonerate some of these children. What I saw is that some of these athletes obviously have to keep their grades up. They have to do certain things, and they're held to a higher standard than those who may not be involved in any extracurricular activities. Some of them were told that they couldn't participate in competition. That kills some kids. Those kids that are athletes or that are in the arts, a lot of them go to school just for that. Our job is not to destroy a future, it's to help make one. So when we are doing that, let's make sure that we look at how that child has lived their life before we impose a punishment that really could destroy them. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Peterson.
So actually, just kind of thinking about that, some of the rules are the State Athletic Association rules rather than APS rules, and it's something that I think maybe we need to think about pushing back on, because I think it undermines the best interest for a lot of kids. So it's, yeah, it's
Adult
something
court
to think
treats them
about.
very differently, so they think about that.
I do want to just give a shout out to the APS police, though, because I think any educators that deal with the school police find that they really do have an orientation that's supportive of kids and that really thinks about the community that they serve, and so I really appreciate their work. The Festival de Bellas Artes, yes, there is no parking. We talk about family engagement and struggle and struggle and struggle, and yet you have performing kids, you have kids doing art, and all of a sudden you absolutely have standing room only, and it's really amazing. It was a wonderful event, but it was followed up by that same night. Zia Elementary School had its own dual language class performances. And once again, so I went from the Hispanic Cultural Center to Zia, and it was absolutely jam-packed, standing room only. You know, don't ever let anyone say that parents don't care about their kids, because you have something that is worth coming to and parents are there. And one of the things that I think we need to think about as a district is how do we use that to engage parents at a different and deeper level, because parents are there for their kids. And their kids were amazing, both places. It was wonderful. I got to be interviewed by a Cub Scout from Sandia Base. And so just a couple of observations. One is that they really like Sandia Base, and having NDI only for 4th grade is not sufficient. They're one of the schools that partners up with the National Dance Institute, but unfortunately only 4th graders get to participate, and he definitely wants it to expand. And I don't know how we can do that, but it's something to think about, maybe with that $15,000 intel. But it emphasizes the point. Now, the one criticism, he said repeatedly that the world's best burger is not, and had serious concerns about the hamburgers. So I just thought I'd pass that on. He did repeat it several times, though. Let's see, the stress management and recovery team, not just going to Aztec, but I have a close friend who's a teacher at North Star, and they just lost a teacher. And one of the things that she talked about was how incredibly wonderful the response team is, and really appreciated that work. And finally, John DeFay, thank you again for all the work that's being done. Did he sneak out? I think our congressional delegation is in need of hearing our voice, though, because a lot of support that was going to Puerto Rico is being halted. And clearly the reconstruction of schools isn't where it needs to be. But more than that, and this was in one of the national connections that we get, that Puerto Rico is looking at following in New Orleans' footsteps and privatizing, turning over to charters their public school system. And if anything, New Orleans has proven that that is a path to not go down. And so I was horrified to see that. You know, when you look at the kind of support that public schools can put together, to abandon Puerto Rico at this point, I think is unconscionable. And so that's something that our congressional delegation, I think, needs to hear to continue the support that Puerto Rico needs and to increase the support that we need too.
Thank you. I'll go to the phone to Board Member Garcia.
Well, I just want to say thank you all. I really appreciate these meetings, and I appreciated everything about the meeting. The recognitions I thought were really, really important. You know, I'm glad that we have a chance to hear each other out, and I appreciate it that you're willing to listen to what I have to say. My hope is that we can continue to pull together as a board and hopefully begin a process where we can identify things that we can do to keep building a dialogue, whether it's with PED or the communities that are affected by these policies that are being implemented. I just want to applaud the staff that have paid attention to the MRI schools and the other schools. I think you've done an incredible job, and building community is, to me, a very measurable, important intervention in a school, and we will see big changes. I have all confidence in the staff. I am concerned about the idea that we would pay some folks, teachers, more. It's 0.5%, but I just feel like that sends the wrong message to our staff. To me, whether it's the custodian or the EA or the food service staff, the maintenance staff, they play an incredibly important role in making or breaking a school. I'm always impressed at how clean our buildings are and how it is that you know, our staff take pride in what they do. This never, of course, makes it into the newspaper, but in my opinion, we have an excellent staff, and I would hope that we would try to find a way to communicate to our legislators that giving one group a little bit higher than another group, it just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Board Member Yolanda.
I love that. Board Member Yolanda. I just want to say that, you know, with all the presentations tonight, it just reminds me of how well-rounded the experiences are, you know, at APS. And I definitely want to, you know, to express my gratitude for the D-SMART team. When I was over at the Department of Health, you know, one of the initiatives that I was responsible for was around school mental health and also suicide prevention. And it was always the APS team that was a rising, shining star for us. And it was one that we led with other school districts in terms of how it was organized and the way that the response could be done. So it's great to see that effort is done. The staff that do that, I know they commit a lot of themselves personally in that process, and it's not, you know, it's not easy work. So I really appreciate the effort that they've done. I want to give a special shout out also. I had an opportunity to participate in job shadow events this week. You all know I'm with Workforce Solutions, and so we were engaged with job shadow events for students. One of the ones that happened specifically was the Rio Grande students actually came to our office, and we had, I think, like 30 to 40 students that came through our office and had an opportunity to engage with the different departments, and were involved in some interviewing skills. They got to meet the different departments, talk about the jobs that we were doing and the kinds of work that they could have. And then we also held a little event for them just to learn about some of the tools and the resources that we had. The teachers that were engaged in that project were amazing. All the staff that came and supported that. Subsequently, we will run an internship program for some of the students that will actually get hired through our agency and will have an opportunity to work. But I also had an opportunity to meet the group from Manzano at another event where they were over at Wells Fargo, and those students had an opportunity to run through the financial institution and be engaged in some mock interview and resume development. So it was great. The teacher from that program was amazing as well. So just a shout out to that, because I wish we had a whole lot more of that with some of our other schools, and I'm sure there's junior achievement activities that are going on district-wide, but just great opportunity for that. In terms of the 24/7 campaign too, I'm always going to hang on the side of health. What I really enjoyed about that presentation is, and I think it's important for us to hear, is made by young people who are talking about something that is important to them, about how they see health and the things that they want to contribute to making our campuses smoke-free, and really understanding that. So I agree. I think we need to take a look at that and what that campaign entails, and how maybe we as one of the largest districts can follow the other districts that have adopted this campaign, and what does that mean. And then finally, my last comment is just, it sort of ties into this whole notion that, APS is one of the largest employers in the state. And so the work, with the Workforce Connection Office, it's incredible, because that is an opportunity to put, the face of one of the largest employers into the community, so that people can understand what APS does and how it works. But I also agree in terms of, we have a responsibility as one of the largest employers to also ensure that we're also advocating on behalf of all of our employees too, because I am concerned about the wages for those that are coming in, and it's not a sustainable wage. And one of the things that we're concerned about for families as we're moving through is that we want to make sure that they have sustainable wages, so that they can meet those very basic needs that are so important to support themselves, but also to support their families. I'm glad that I hope the work fair went well. Thumbs up. I think it is definitely a model that we're excited about, and it is something that I think APS can set themselves up as a standard, for engaging with the state agency and the public services that are available, so that we can work with a large employer to do that. So I was really happy to hear that.
Thank you. Board Member Patterson.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank, I know he's probably left the building, but I wanted to thank Mr. Dufay. His response to the, it appeared that there was a fire at SR Marmon, but it wasn't. It was really just some system that was on the roof. It was probably a motor that gave out, and there were people out there within a few hours. And the school, actually, they didn't have the school day. They actually continued their school day, so they actually had to go back into the classrooms and completed their day. and so there was no fire at all, and it was his quick response that took care of that. And it's his work that we need to applaud. One of the things that, I agree with the tobacco. I think we need to take a look at the procedural directives there, and maybe just strengthen that a little more, maybe go through policy and instruction and take a look at that. I think it would be incumbent upon us to take a look at that a little closer and stuff. And, I don't have a whole lot. I just wanted to say that, Brenda, I think the secretary, I know she's new. There's no seniority here, but I think we should put a work order for her chair. It's very squeaky, and I know the squeaky wheel gets the grease and stuff, but so I'd like to submit my work order for her fixing her chair, if we could just do that. And then
John DeFay will get it right on that.
Oh, okay, all right. I just
too much.
It's been. I know it's been that way for a long time, but here's the work order. And then for the dog treats, I think I can give these to our canine, to our dog here at APS. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Armijo.
So I wanted to point out that today, 1 year ago, we were elected to the board, some of us. So just wanted to point that out. It's been a full year already. So, and then I just wanted to say also congratulations to our newly promoted police officers, and thank you again for always knowing my daughter on a first name basis. So I really appreciate that. 4 years later, they're still asking about her. So thanks again for that. So, and then way to go, Chelwood, on their teacher partner grant as well. So I'm very proud of them for that. And I look forward to also sharing these cookies from Awesome Barkery with my puppies at home, who are probably really pissed off by now. Forgot to feed them before I left. So, and then so proud of our D-Smart team. I too get emotional every time I hear them talk or hear stories that they share. So, you know, what an incredible job that they have. And I'm also fully supportive of both of our public comments tonight. I loved Jan and Josiah, the students who came and spoke, and I really appreciated the comprehensive policy analysis that they did on our policy, and I really think that we could truly benefit from that. And you're right, there wasn't a lot of changes that we would have to consider, but to be able to, and the youth have been working on these kind of projects for many years. And they also do tobacco awareness in their schools on their own multiple times a year. So I'm really proud of them for what they did around that. We could all benefit from tobacco education, especially at that age. And really think they'd be a great partner. And I appreciate the resources that they gave us. I appreciate the analysis, the comprehensive analysis that they did. And actually, Senate Bill 25 is being heard today. I wanted to ask Dr. Escobedo for an update, but Senate Bill 25 was a tax increase on cigarettes and tobacco products. So I hope to get an update on that too. Wanted to ask the students about it too. I think we have it up every year, and then really encouraged by ATF, the Special Education Committee meeting with our APS leadership, and really, the verbal testimonies that we received last time. And you're right, there's 31 testimonies that I had written down. That, along with the written testimonies, really do have an impact on us. So thank you for sharing both of that. And again, totally kind of a comprehensive analysis. You always bring solutions to the table, and we really appreciate that as well. So, you shine light on the problem, you bring solutions to the table, and I fully support the implementation planning and plan that team will work on. So thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you, everybody who sat this out. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have a gag order leveled against me, but thank you so much for bringing up this. And I think just first off, in writing, so that people get the same message, and that, 36 pages, and those of us who have been in the system know that things are not always clear, and that different administrators interpret things differently. And what I think the sense of what's in here, when I read those comments, it wasn't people not wanting to work hard. It's this frustration with superfluous things getting in the way of the real work that needs to be done. And so I really appreciate the work that started, and applaud the fact that there's a process to move forward on. And we give people things in writing.
Are we done?
Yes.
I've lost control again. I never had control. Never had control to begin with. So, thank you, board members. I appreciate your comments. I really just echo a lot of the things that were said here. Thank you again. I appreciate the fact that Union and APS has working on a process. That's nice. I always like process. And the D-Smart team, I know a lot of these things were great, but the D-Smart is just an incredible team. I personally interacted with them at Roy Del Oso when the principal was killed died, I should say, of a heart attack down in Costa Rica, down in Mexico someplace. And then, of course, Manzana Mesa. I went over there when they were there to help with that issue. And of course, Aztec, and then I know they've been dealing with a couple of issues today. So this is a great team. And, you know, the next time the Journal or anybody else comes and says, you got a story for us, I suggest you tell them about this story. You tell them about what they did at Aztec. You tell them about what exactly they're doing to follow up and how they used their time over the Christmas vacation for this. So go tell them about that. Let's write that story, okay? Because I got a story about the fact, you know, that our cheer competition, we didn't stop that for a little recognition of the Aztec folks. But I didn't hear anything about our D-Smart team going to Aztec and spending all the time. So.
Go Dr. Piercy.
Yeah. So, not that I like our cheer team, so that's fine. But anyway, so there's more to that story. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. And with that, I'll conclude my comments. And just announcement of the upcoming board meetings. The next Board of Education meeting will be held Wednesday, February 21st at 5 o'clock here. And the next special board meeting will be held Monday, February 26th at 7:30 in the DeLeo Martin. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.